Hi, I'm Belle Holder for UNCTAD Conversations in Barbados. Today, we're in the Warrens area in St. Michael. And over the last 20 years, Warrens has really developed into a hub of activity with high-rise office buildings and government offices, shopping centers, and eateries. It really has become a city outside of the city. But what makes a smart city? Do we just add more technology? How do we use the technology to create efficiency and innovation? Well, today's guest has an office right here in Warrens at the Baobab Tower. We'll be chatting with Senator McConney, who's the Minister of Science, Smart Technology, and Innovation. Interestingly enough, we're here in the Warrens area where your office is also located. And, we talk about the buzz and the hub that Warrens has become. And it really has become in a city, like a little city onto its own. So when we talk about a smart city, what does that really mean? I want Bajans to understand what a smart city would mean.
I think when we think about a smart city, we think of what are the experiences that we have in that city right now? And how do we then use the technologies that are available to enable us to enhance that experience? Whether that experience is going to be shopping, whether that experience is how we park, whether that experience is how we know about the sites and the scenes that are in that area, and how do we use technology to provide information and boost that. There are all kinds of ways in which a city lives and breathes. And there are many ways in which technology can facilitate how we do. I'll give you a perfect example. At nights, after many people have left the city or certain parts of the city, we still have lights that are burning. Part of a smart city may very well having the kinds of technologies that allow us to have greater efficiency and save money on lights, so that when people are in the area, you have the right level of security. When they're not in the area, you still maintain security, but at a different level. When we talk about smart parking, we talk about people being able to pull up their phones and know where in the city you can go and park your car, so that you're not driving around and impacting the environment negatively, certainly because of all of the driving around. So those are just examples. When we talk about smart city, we are talking about how do we do the things that we already do in the city, but how do we use technology to enable us to have a better experience, to help us to save money, to help us to save time, and to help us to be able to have a far more enhanced experience.
Because I know often when people think about technological development, they're just thinking we need more technology, and don't put enough emphasis on, but how are you using that technology? How is that technology making our lives better? I think that COVID-19 has forced us to look at technology, and let's start with something as simple as online school for our children. And that really brought to the fore where maybe some of our deficiencies are. Something as simple as making sure we have enough devices for every single child on the island. But then you need a device and you need access. What is being done, because we're in this online school environment, which is for the safety of our children and our teachers, what is being done to make sure that every child has the opportunity for accessibility?
Now, I know that much of that work, and it has been very deliberate, it has been very considered work, is being done by the Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training. And that is headed by our Minister, Ms. Santia Bradshaw. And so that organization has certainly taken this challenge up, and they have been seeking to address that challenge on many different levels. And you are absolutely right. You have the connectivity. Do you live in an area where there's easy access to the internet? And even if you do, are you in a circumstance that allows you to afford it? And if you cannot afford it, what supports are being put there to ensure that you do not fall behind and a divide is created in education where there are those who have access to the technology, who have access to the devices, have connectivity connectivity and who really have the support at home too, and we cannot discredit that. We need the support at home for a number of children. Just recently, I had, in fact, someone who works very closely with me. Her 5-year-old daughter is now going online for the first time as a beginner in primary school. So that was not just about, do you have the connectivity? Do you have the device? But do you now have the supervision for a child that is at the first time seeking to do this? And as I said, the ministry, which is headed by Minister Bradshaw, they're continuing to look at this from all of the many different angles. Certainly the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Technology, who works with the telecommunications providers. We also have to make sure that the quality of service that they are providing is adequate, is reliable, and is affordable. And so we are working with them to seek to redefine what universal access to telecommunications really mean. Before, there was a focus, certainly in Barbados' legislation and in our environment, on that being mostly telephone. But now that we are moving into a more digitally powered world, we have to ensure that internet access is an important part of that. And for many people around the world, they're telling you that internet access now is, in many places, becoming a right. And that because without it, it disenfranchises a number of people when it comes to education, when it comes to their ability to transact business in a particular way that is more conducive to the current environment in which we're living.
Which automatically leads me into the question of digitizing an economy and what that really means. Can you simplify that? And it's interesting, because having conversations around technology, because the truth is, so many of us don't even understand. And so, and I will use something very basic as an example. I own a car. I know how to drive. I know how to put gas in my car. I know who to take it to when it needs to be serviced. But that doesn't necessarily mean that I could break it down for you and explain how a car actually works. And I think many of us approach technology in that way. Like, I know how a cell phone benefits my life, but I don't necessarily know how to explain to you how a cell phone works. So when we talk about digitizing an economy, explain that to people and what that actually means.
I think we have to look at all the economic activity and all the activity in general that will make up our lives. We shop. We buy medicines. Or we take medical care. We go to school. We go to work. One of the things I really would want for us to be able to do when we talk about digital transformation and digital economy and digital society and all of the many fancy terms that we use for it, it is just about us doing what we have always done, but we are doing it in a different way. That it is being powered by a different technology. It is reimagining the boundaries, for example, that we have in business. We have Facebook, for example, and I'm going to use that because that's something that is understood internationally. Facebook does not create any content, but it is one of the biggest content platforms out there. We have Uber. I'll get something else others can relate to. They don't own any cars, but they're some of the biggest players in terms of transportation of people. We have Airbnb.
I literally just wrote down Airbnb because it's a fantastic example.
They don't own houses, but it is one of the largest platforms. And that is about reimagining the boundaries that we put around business and creating new models of how we're able to do many things in e-commerce. And that takes us into that whole world of e-commerce that is not simply about buying and selling. You have e-commerce that relates business to business, that is about corporate procurement. That is one of the fastest growing areas as well. How do businesses now procure their own resources that they will then use to create something that they sell on to others? It is about business to consumer, how the businesses are selling directly to the consumers and cutting out that middle person. Now at this point. It is about consumer to consumer. We have now that consumers can actually send money to each other. They don't own the money, they don't own the platform that enables the money. We can send minutes to each other. We can send points to each other. So whether you're doing business to business, business to consumer, consumer to consumer, in so many different areas, it is really about how we are going to connect people, how we are going to connect business, how we are going to connect devices, how we are going to connect data, how we're going to connect processes, and allow us to put that all together in one network to deliver the very things that we have consistently delivered. Justice being done in a very different way.
All right, so we're going to continue this conversation. When we come back, I want to talk about the new Trident ID cards that are coming on stream. We'll be right back. On today's UNCTAD Conversations, we're talking to Senator Kay McConney, who's the Minister of Innovation, Science, and Smart Technology. And so for decades in Barbados, we've had the laminated ID card, and there are changes afoot in the form of the new Trident ID card, which would mean many things for many people. And I know that the country of Estonia has done a wonderful blueprint of what that really means in terms of digitizing an economy that links right into an ID card. Tell Barbadians about plans for the Trident ID card.
The Trident Identity Card, I think that is such an exciting piece that is coming to the Barbados landscape. What is important for us is that we have been able to do identity well as a country. If I am facing you, if I am up close and personal and we're face to face, I can give you my ID, you can look at my ID, you can verify me, and then we can continue to transact business. We are living in a different world where people need to be able to transact business from any distance at any time. But what is important is that you need to be able to prove that Bellholder is who she says she is when she's not standing in front of you. When she is at a distance, sitting at her kitchen table on her computer, when she has her mobile phone and she's able to transact because she's sitting on our new electric buses with the Wi-Fi and she wants to be able to transact some business, it means that she needs to be identified by the party or parties with whom she is doing business from any distance. And so our digital ID allows Barbadians to use their ID in the same way they have used their current ID before. It also gives them additional capabilities to link to other government services, to link to services in the private sector, to allow private sector companies to know your customer, the KYC requirements where you have to carry in several bits of paper, including a utility bill from your home and a couple other pieces of IDs. What would happen is that the digital identity, it becomes a trusted source that provides one version of who Bellholder really is.
And it's interesting because I think it's going to have health as well. That will be linked to the card, correct?
That is something that will come later down.
Right.
One of the concerns that people have is that your health information will be on your card.
Right.
And I'm saying, no, that is not the case. And what we have to understand is that in working with the digital ID, you have the capacity for what is on the card, what you can visually see on the card, what is in the card, which is embedded in the chip in the card, and what can be accessible by the card.
And you know, the first thing that people will want to know is how secure is my information on this one card? How will I be protected?
First of all, we have a cybersecurity working group of some of the leading cybersecurity experts in Barbados who are working with us, and this is from the private sector as well, who are collaborating with us and keeping a very close eye on us. In addition, the services that we would want to provide on the card, when we want to link with international partners who will need to facilitate those services, they have international standards for security as well that ensure, and I'll give you a perfect example. One of the things that we did recently, and we had to do it, because one of the use cases for Barbados's digital ID card would be that when the time is right and we have negotiated the right relationships with internationally, can be used as a travel card.
You're talking in the absence of a passport?
In the absence of a passport. So the International Civil Aviation Authority, ICAO, organization, I should say, then has to ensure that when we use that card, that it meets the same standards as a passport. And the good news is that Barbados had to send our card to receive its review and to ensure that it complies. 2 weeks ago, we received our card saying we have hit that security standard and we have hit all of the standards that they need for that to be a compliant card. Right. That's just one example. So the point that I'm making is that there is cybersecurity in the infrastructure, which we are seeking to ensure that is happening. It is cybersecurity in terms, and it is the security of your data on the card. It is the governance. How do you govern data and how you manage data? And those governance frameworks are being worked out now. And in truth, it is one of the reasons why we have taken our time at this stage to get it right. It has been the standards, it has been the cybersecurity, and it is making sure that we have the technical capability in place that after we launch the card, we have the capacity as a country to be able to manage it in a way that will give trust and comfort to the people of this country.
I know that one of the things that your ministry is doing is looking at young people and getting them excited about technology and innovation in the form of the Game Changers Innovation Competition.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Well, you know what? It is interesting that you said we're getting them interested. They're already interested. What they're doing is just looking for opportunities to plug into. And so the Game Changers was very much one of those. You may recall that this Barbados government had said that we really and truly want for our young people not just to be consumers of the technology, but also to be creators of the technology. And so the Game Changers program allows students, and we started our first group of students, 105 started, and they were at sixth form level. And they were challenged. They were allowed to come up with a concept of the kinds of games they would like to create. They were given training on how they would develop those games. Then they would be moved towards the point where those games eventually will be moved to the market. Now, we have had the competition so far. We have seen tremendous response. We have some winners from those. I'm not going to say on international. I believe there were some sixth form students, 5 who won, but they were getting ready for their A-levels certificates. And so we have had to pause, but now we're ready to regroup them and be able to move them now to the next level of moving their games online. And as you know, Barbados has a very rich culture. We have collaborated with the Prime Minister's office and with the Ministry of Culture in order to support these young people in this creative venture called Game Changers. Barbados's approach to how we will do digital transmission is a whole of government approach. In fact, it's a whole of country approach. And so you will find that on many initiatives, including this one, there is a collaboration with education where many of the students came from the schools. There's the National Cultural Foundation, because as part of Game Changers, it was important for us that they use some of the language and the music and the movement and the culture of Barbados, the landship and the folklore and all that is part of that needs to be packaged within their game so that Barbados can sell the culture to the world, or at least introduce the world to its culture. And so we have had tremendous support. And we have seen these young people show a level of creativity that is mind-boggling. Yeah. So we will know we have succeeded when we see that game on the market.
I am a great supporter of the belief, bring up the children in the way they should go, and they'll never depart from it. So I am always looking at reaching children even younger.
Yes.
So for example, and you and I both know, coming through the system, the educational system in
Yes.
Barbados, but of course, academics are fundamentally important in Barbados. What is being done to make sure that we can start having our children exposed to coding the same way that we would expose them to math and English in terms of their development?
Well, certainly, again, all of government, we are all a part of this very big effort. The Ministry of Education has initiatives. The Ministry of Youth and Community Development has initiatives. Private charities and foundations are running initiatives. Our ministry itself has been doing some work through the summer camps, online camps, in order to promote this. And so there is, and I know that 10 Habitat and others has been doing that at a different level, in fact, in terms of not just the younger ones, but also persons who are more advanced, and certainly seeking to integrate that with business. So we see coding, reading, writing, and arithmetic used to be the way in which we measured literacy. Coding is simply, in very simple terms, it is how you instruct a computer to do whatever it is you want it to do. And when you have our young people growing up in a world that is powered by machines and other types of technologies, they have to be able to create.
They have to be able to speak the language.
They have to be able to speak the language. And coding has many different languages, just as the way you and I speak today have different languages. We have French and English and different ones that have different structures. Same way with coding. And I think that it is so critically important that this world in which they live in, they get to be creators in that world and not just consumers of what the world will give them. And in order for us to do that, we need to give them the basic literacy tools like coding to be able to find their space and truly occupy it in a way that is needed.
In the minute that we have left, what other details you'd like to add about the work of your ministry and goals for Barbados?
You know, certainly we have to make sure that it is not just government that is doing what it has to do. It has to be the private sector. It has to be all of country that is a part of this. And I'm excited by some of the initiatives that I'm seeing coming out of the private sector itself. And in fact, our ministry, we have sought to align ourselves and to partner to boost the support for the initiatives. Government, we have lived in a time when government has done a lot of the leading of what transformation should be. And our job is certainly to create an enabling environment. It is to make sure that we have the broadband that's necessary. It's make sure that we have put the legislation in place that is necessary. It is for us to make sure that we have the skills and we continue to develop the skills all across government through the various institutions. It is important that we be able to create the work environments and the school environments and all the different types of environments that will allow people to thrive in a digital world. And so if you ask me what is the final thing I want to say, is that when we say that we're all in this together, it is more than words. It is very real, because as you know, we are only as fast as the slowest one of us. And if Barbados is to position itself to be world-class and to be a true player within this digital world powered by digital, we have to ensure that it is not just our children, but it's our adults, that it is not just our primary schools, but it's our secondary and tertiary educations that are preparing people for the world in there, to make sure that government, we're reskilling and upskilling our people to be able to manage the situations that will become a part of e-governance and e-services.
Thank you so much, Minister McConney. Thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.